Leonardo da Vinci, in Notebooks, said intellectual passion drives out sensuality. Hello once again, I'm Don Jackson. It was Dostoevsky in The Brothers Karamazov who said, "That insect lives in you too, and will stir a tempest in your blood." Tempests, because sensual lust is a tempest, worse than a tempest. This translation was by Constance Garnett. It was Dostoevsky who also wrote, "The awful thing is that beauty is mysterious as well as terrible. God and devil are fighting there, and the battlefield is the heart of man." Sensuality, with the heartbeat of the internet. Jack Hoffer, in the book Total Sensuality, writes, and I quote, "Let's begin by saying what sensuality is not. Sensuality is not a dirty word. Neither is the word sexuality. Both these words and their implied actions are often linked together, and rightly so. But sensuality is more than sexuality. Although sexuality plays an important role in sensuality, it certainly is not the whole story." End quote. I'll tell you the rest of the story with the heartbeat of the internet. A few final thoughts on sensuality from the book Total Sensuality by Jack Hoffer. Sensuality is often associated with erotic events or sexual activities. Sexual pleasures are inherent in sensual pursuits, but so are many other pleasures. Music, food, scents, poetry, art, and natural beauty. Basically, sensuality is a special sensation or experience in which something very pleasurable happens. It is usually a spontaneous feeling or event, and one that we would like more of. Now, some excerpts from another book, The Possible Human, by Jean Houston and Robin Beebe. And again I quote, "Poets and novelists have always recognized and deliberately used sensory images to stimulate the creative imagination of the listener. Think of stories you remember and notice the senses they evoke, the images, the sounds, the smells, even the tastes." End quote. I've always liked the way Thomas Hardy describes one Eustacia Vi in the book The Return of the Native. Her presence brought memories of such things as bourbon, roses, rubies, and tropical midnights. Her moods recalled lotus eaters and the march in Atali. Her motions, the ebb and flow of the sea. Her voice, the viola. In a dim light, and with a slight rearrangement of her hair, her general figure might have stood for that of either of the higher female deities. The new moon behind her head, an old helmet upon it, a diadem of accidental dewdrops round her brow, would have been adjuncts sufficient to strike the note of Artemis, Athena, or Hera respectively, with as close an approximation to the antique as that which passes muster on many respected canvases. End quote. Meg Ryan's character in the film City of Angels describes the eyes of the angel when she says, "Those eyes, the way he looks, all the way down, into me. Houston goes on to write, "One day I asked a group of friends who were in the house to jot down a list of their most pleasurable experiences and associations. There was some initial laughter and skepticism, but their enthusiasm grew noticeably as they became absorbed in this project. The sampling that follows is an adventure into lands forgotten, but now found again. A banquet to regale the senses and the spirit. Climbing between freshly ironed sheets that were dried in the sun. Nursing my baby, curled up in a big chair in the middle of the night. Lying on the beach, listening to the waves, my toes wriggling in the hot sand. Roller skating at breakneck speed down a steep hill. Cuddling, singing, rocking and scratching my children's backs. It was like the evening blessing for me. Walking in the quiet of New York City after a heavy snowfall. Listening to a Beethoven symphony and imagining that I was the conductor. The electricity in the air after a thunderstorm has blown away. The sensation of a purring, enraptured cat treading on my body. Saturday afternoon at the movies munching candy bars. Dancing with my giant dog. Hearing a choir rehearsing as I walk down the street. Sitting by a fireplace and watching the images and the crackling flames. Blowing the paper wrapper off the straw into the fans at Robinson's drugstore before guzzling my strawberry ice cream soda. Reading a great novel in a hot bath on a cold night. Diving naked into a cool lake. Telling ghost stories while the wind demons howl outside the house. Cool green grapes in July. Watching the cork disappear beneath the water and feeling the sudden tug of a big fish on the line. How often do we make such lists? Most lists are of things to be done, reminders of duties untended and obligations reluctantly remembered. For our doctors, we list our symptoms, our problems for our therapists. In our society, a catalog of pains is much more common than a catalog of pleasures. The author of this book, The Possible Human, encourages you to do the same. She says, and again I quote, "Make a list of your own pleasures and delights. If you are anything like my friends, once you start, remembered pleasures will trigger more memories to relish, and you will not want to stop. These memories prime your sensorium. You may find after making and recalling this list that your awareness will have a keener edge. Your capacity for pleasure will deepen." Concerning that list, the authors continue, "This is not as far-fetched as it sounds. Consider the people you know who are bursting with a sense of fun and delight, with an openness and availability for what is possible. Inevitably, they are the ones who are in touch with their senses and with pleasure, and they are remarkably successful in what they do. They are not the people prone to denial and the quick put-down. They invite us to join in the serious delight of high play. Our senses are ours to be used, danced with, cherished, and shared. They call for celebration in a culture with a tendency to long pains and short pleasures. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.